How do we know or even begin to understand what we will become in our future? What kind of work are we going to be doing in the future? Well, some people actually say that whatever work you choose to do, make sure it's something that you're passionate about. And there is a lot of truth to making sure that you lead through your work through your passion. But what I would challenge us to think about, in addition to our passion, is to think about what kind of influence our ancestry and our culture has in our thinking and on the expectations that we put upon ourselves. Merriam-Webster's dictionary defines the word unknown as something that is not known or understood. But what I found very interesting was the second definition, where it talks about something that requires discovery, clarification, or identification. You see, in answering those questions about how did I get to where I am today? How did I become who I am? I needed to dig deeper and discover and look into the unknown, perhaps the influence of what my ancestry and my culture has been on my thinking. I am a second-generation Chinese American. My father's family moved to America from a small village in Kowloon, Hong Kong. And they moved my father and his siblings to America in seeking a better and a more prosperous life. But not only did they bring their possessions of their home in China, what they brought with them were also their beliefs, their expectations, and their traditions that they were taught, that they learned, and that they understood of the Chinese people. This is my grandmother, my Ning Yin. I wonder what expectations and what her hopes and dreams were in leaving her homeland and moving all the way to America. You see, there have been stereotypes and certain expectations put upon Chinese girls, Chinese women, that have existed for thousands of years in the history of the Chinese people. In a study in the Asian American Journal of Psychology, a study reveals that there's an expectation of Chinese girls and Chinese women to be silent and quiet, without opinion, and without standing up for oneself. Another expectation to be invisible, without voice. And another expectation of being subservient, to not lead, but to follow even though you don't agree. I wonder if those were the expectations that my grandmother brought with her to America. I wonder about my dad's journey. See, because my dad moved as a grade school student to America. I wonder what his hopes and dreams were. He did go to college, but didn't finish college because he ended up in the military in the early 1940s. But after he got out of the military, there were expectations that were put upon him. Expectations to be a Chinese grocer. That's a person who runs a Chinese grocery store, and usually for the entire Chinese community of that hometown. And that's what my father did. For 47 years, he worked every single day and never missed a day of work. I wonder if those were his hopes and dreams. Well, my father's been gone now for 20 years, and I wish I could ask him what his hopes and dreams were for me. Sometimes, though, pictures do tell a little bit of a clue about a person's journey and what they might become. So here I am when I'm 3 or 4 years old, yeah, that picture could say, wow, Linda could be a dancer in the making. It's okay to laugh. I don't think so. This is my first grade picture, but I do remember the stories that my parents used to give to my older sisters and me. You should become a nurse. You should become a dental assistant, or you should become a teacher, because those are good jobs for you. Well, today what I would ask is, why not a doctor besides a nurse? Why not being the dentist in addition to being a dental assistant? And why not a principal in addition to being a teacher? Or how about even being a superintendent? If you asked my fourth grade teacher what Linda Chin was going to become when I grew up, she would tell all of you that I was supposed to be a teacher. I loved school. I was the kid who brought the math book home, and I did every page, every problem, had all my papers together, and I gave it to my fourth grade teacher on the third week of school. I loved school. So my teacher's expectations were right. I loved school and became a teacher. Well, I went to college first. You have to go to college to get your credentials and get your degrees in order to become a teacher. But I don't know whether or not my parents really expected me to go to college. But my band teacher did. It was my band teacher who actually walked me through the process of getting into college. He expected me to go to college and told me that in order for me to have choice and opportunities in my future, I needed to go. So I did. And trust me, I was discovering an unknown because I didn't know what college was. You know what college is now because we teach about that. But then I had no idea what college was. I was truly going into the unknown. But by my senior year, these were the expectations that my professors had for me to become in my future. One professor actually expected me to be a performer. In other words, be in concert on a stage, performing on the piano or performing and singing. Another professor expected me to be a choir director, to be working in a university and directing choirs and teaching about choral music. Another professor expected me to be a music teacher. And another professor actually said to me, Linda, you're going to be a really good assistant to a CEO, somebody that's in charge of an organization or a company. You're going to be a really good assistant. Those were the expectations for me. So let's find out, did I become those expectations? So my first job was working at Burger King. I made $1.85 an hour. I knew I was not going to be working at Burger King for the rest of my life, and I needed to find another job. So after I got out of college and I had my teaching credential, I actually couldn't find a job teaching because in the 1980s, there were not that many teaching jobs available. But I had to get a job because I just got married and I needed to make money. So my second job was working for Bank of America in a bank. And I didn't even go to college for that. But going to college allowed me to have this job. Finally, in 1984, I became a teacher. Becoming a teacher, though, provided me so many different opportunities to discover and to grow and to learn. These are all the jobs that teaching led to for me. Never once in my life did I ever think or expect that I would become a superintendent. My parents would have never thought that I would become a superintendent. Well, in 2010, It was my first year being appointed as a superintendent of schools. Now you have to realize in the state of California, there are 6.2 million students and only about 1,000 superintendents who oversee all of those districts of the 6.2 million students. What I learned was in 2010, there were only 7 out of the 1,000 superintendents who were Asian and female. I was one of those 7. Today, what we know is that there are 130 women superintendents, and the other 870 are men. So we're still working on this, aren't we? But what I want you to know is this. I am so, so grateful to the influence of my culture, the influence of my ancestors and my parents, and the richness of my culture that has formed me into the person I am today. But when I think about those expectations and those stereotypes of my ancestors from long ago, I actually have become the opposite of what they expected me to become as a Chinese girl. I am not subservient. I am a leader. I'm a leader of which thousands of people depend on me every single day to ensure an excellent education as the foundation for your success as students. I am not invisible or silent, and you can ask my brothers and sisters and my family about that. Actually, that's probably another TED Talk in itself. But I am not invisible or silent. I was born to speak up. I was born to be a superintendent. And I only realized that about 6 years ago, what my purpose was. I'm here to be the voice for students and families who don't know their voice yet, not yet, but have to know that college and a career is in their future and for their opportunities. So what I would say to you is this. As you think about what you're going to become in your future, dig deeper. Dig deeper into perhaps what your ancestry or your culture is influencing upon your thinking and upon your decision making. And see beyond what people think you should be, and then discover who you were born to become. Thank you.